Audiences have already praised the two-episode premiere of one of the most anticipated TV shows of the year, calling it phenomenal and a masterpiece. A Twitterati even went so far as to declare in another review of Shogun that the FX series was contributing to the return of the feeling of Golden Age TV, combining a daring blend of action, cultural politics, real Japanese culture, and other things. Now that her sister's baby, Toranaga's grandchild, has come, Lady Ochiba is traveling back to Osaka from Toranaga's castle in Edo. With her back in the fold, Toranaga's captivity is coming to an end, and he is getting closer to being executed at a clock. But let's speak about what he does with Engine Blackthorn, Moriko-sama, and his opponent Lord Yabushige by his side. You and I both know he's too intelligent to just sit there and take a knife to the neck. In fact, we begin with Lord Yabushige drafting his will, ostensibly a habit he has whenever he feels certain he is about to pass away. He goes to see Toranaga, the person he believes will be accountable for that death, but instead they discuss the hardcore assassins targeting Blackthorn, the Society of the Amida, and they devise a strategy to try to escape Osaka alive. Assuring him that he turned down the rival Regent Ishido's offer of Toranaga's place on the Council of Regents in exchange for a favor, Yabushige acknowledges that all he wants is to increase the size of his fief. If Yabushige agrees to accompany Blackthorn and Lady Kiri, Toranaga's consort and highest-ranking wife, to his fishing hamlet, Toranaga says he can proceed with doing that for him without Ishido. Is that all he truly desires? We'll see. For the moment, the two men watch the sunrise together in foreboding. Later, a large group of people, led by an irate Buntoro, who screams at his child as the young man is bidding a sorrowful farewell to his mother Mariko, have gathered to send Blackthorn and Kiri to the fishing village on Toranaga's orders. When Ishido discovers this procession and declares he wants to say goodbye to Lady Kiri, ostensibly to uncover any possible conspiracies, the pregnant concubine of Toranaga abruptly begins to experience pain. Lady Kiri jumps out of her coffin-shaped carriage box and skitters off, leaving Toranaga to take her place as everyone rushes to her side. Blackthorn saw it all go down, and when the inevitable Ishido-ordered inspections come up before they can clear the palace, he creates a distraction by acting a fool, yelling at everyone that, where'd he comes from? They wouldn't dare search a lady's quarters. In the end, it's sufficient to make the guards back off and allow them to go without spotting Toranaga. Nobody is aware that he is inside until Kiyama and his Catholic allies begin firing fire arrows at everyone, while the large procession makes its way through the forest, at which point he must run outside and assist in putting an end to them. The crew must therefore make plans to board the Great Lord's ship as soon as Toranaga is found. The fishing community was only a site from which they could take a boat and flee, never the real destination. Speaking of vessels, the Portuguese captain of the Black Ship, which serves as a conduit for trade between China and Japan, has been extremely irate over the shipping holdup brought on by the demand for an earnings report. The captain is eager to venture out and trade in order to obtain that money, taking advantage of the favorable winds. He demands that they go that evening on the authority of the Portuguese government, so that's what will happen, with no regard for Toranaga's sentiments or favor. This episode, he will be one of the sneaks, but not a very good one. As his party arrives at the docks, Toranaga himself witnesses the enormous ship sailing away. It is perfectly positioned for Toranaga. As Toranaga's ship sets sail, Blackthorn demands they head directly over to the Black Ship to see if they can count on the Portuguese to get them past the arrow people safely. This is because additional Catholics are blocking the port with arrows. While Toranaga is at it, he asks whether the priests have the ability to persuade Kiyama and Ono to support him rather than Ishido. In return, he gives the capitalist captain some cash and the holy men a church in Edo. Agreeing, the Portuguese turn over Blackthorn's journal, which they assert contains proof of piracy. One more thing. The captain is adamant that Blackthorn must stay behind as part of this arrangement. He is not allowed to board the main ship with them. Toranaga responds, yes. Now stranded on Toranaga's galley while everyone else sails off with the Portuguese, well, everyone but Mariko's husband Buntoro, who got held up in the forest, missed the boat, and is now presumed dead. Blackthorn has to hatch a new scheme. Good thing he's buds with Captain Zama of Toranaga's ship after helping him steer through a storm en route to Osaka in the first episode. That goodwill he has fostered with him means Zama is totally down to essentially race the Black Ship upon Blackthorn's request. It's high octane, baby. The rowers are rowing their little butts off and steering like mad, trying to get past the giant vessel. After they've surpassed it, Toranaga politely asks to be returned to his own galley. He no longer needs the Portuguese boat now that it has eluded the Arrow guys, and their little cash and church deal is essentially pointless. Even with this whole process, they have managed to create rifts among the regents. Because he blasts up the forest with fire arrows, Kiyama is currently in difficulty with Ichido, because his people now view Kiyama's leader as a terrible forest guard. This episode has a lot more action than the others that we've seen so far, which is sort of fun, isn't it? The episode Tomorrow is Tomorrow even has a title that vaguely recalls a James Bond film. A charming little scene where Blackthorn shows Toranaga how to jump from the ship into the water is also included at the conclusion. The Great Lord watches Blackthorn perform the dive 1,000,000 times before he tries it himself. Although he now has access to Blackthorn's notebook, translating it will take a very long time. For the time being, they can have fun together. This feels lighter overall. This episode has more small jokes than the others so far, and it also includes a brief boat race. Additionally, every scene is still exquisitely and flawlessly photographed, and every performance is still well acted. Furthermore, the plot is still going forward despite the episode's humorous digressions. Osaka Castle is now empty of Toranaga. He's not going to die there after all. We get to see Edo now that Mariko and Blackthorn are on their way there. This was a pleasant little diversion that offered the possibility of discovering some fascinating new ground to cover. Let's observe the outcome. Let's go back a little to the first episode. This is Tadeyoshi, the General Toranaga's favorite grandchild's husband. He has a cringe-worthy outburst during the first meeting with all the regents, essentially begging everyone to stop making fun of Toranaga. Rather than being allowed to do seppuku because he was so disgusted, he and his little boy are put to death, but the general's granddaughter is spared. In this episode, her grandfather advises her to make good use of her father's samurai swords now that she is all by herself, and brings her family's remains to her in small boxes covered in white cloth. Anticipating her next move excites me. The son of Toranaga is envious of Yabushige's brief friendship. Instead, he wants his father to believe in him. There appears to be a chance for confrontation in this situation. Like a true English dum-dum of his era, Blackthorn asks, "You're going to bleed me then?" as the palace doctor is ministering to a wound on his arm. In England, it was customary to let blood. That was such a crazy period. When Blackthorn asks Mariko about her husband, she responds, "Is Long Paws a strong and admired warrior?" Her only option is that, and she had to give it some serious thought. Hurt. He must be truly awful. It's good that Blackthorn and Mariko are getting to know one another a little better, especially because Mariko's husband is still a fool, even though it's assumed he's dead. Additionally, she makes several references to pillowing, which is code for sex in this episode, indicating that the two of them will pillow shortly. Regarding Buntoro, are you guys of the opinion that he is indeed dead, or is this just a ruse? In my opinion, he's still out there.